Welcome to the two Davies on the 26th of the 6th, 2023, minus one Davy, because he's sworn about in the Greek islands. So it's just me today, again, and I think it'll be me again on Thursday, and then we'll be back to normal after that. As I say, bit of padding at the beginning, let you guys get on board, if you're coming on board. Get the Facebook comments up. That's better. Now we've put my gingers. Let's slow the day. Thomas, Sandra, Elizabeth. Oh, here we're starting to drop in now. Anyway, hi folks. Hi Mark, Robert, James. Hi Stephen, Robert, Paul, Robert T. Bruce, Reg, Alexander. Now folks, this is, as you know, a topical chat show. So we cover both UK-wide politics and Scottish politics, and there'll be quite a breadth of it today. There's a couple of important things happening down that road between Thursday and now, and there's been a lot happened over the weekend actually for UK-wide politics, Scottish politics, geopolitics. So it's been a fascinating weekend, and we'll get into it in a minute. But before we do, I want to mention two up-and-coming events which affect the people here in Scotland, and that is a Believe in Scotland's March for Independence on the 2nd of September from Johnston Terrace to Holyrood. Kick off at 1:30. Now, huge turnout, folks, is what's needed here. A really big turnout. And the First Minister has said that he will speak at this event. So you'll get to hear whom's his thoughts, if you're not in the party, first hand on that day. We'll get a wee bit more into whom's his thoughts as we go further into the programme. And the other event I want to mention is the Chain of Freedom, where we're going to go right across the central belt, round the canal, hopefully. Now we need 77,000 people. We need 77,000 pro-independent supporters to make that link from Bowen to the other side in Edinburgh. I think there's about 10,500 signed up at the moment. I will be there. You can add, but I'll be walking up and doing the link that I'll be on. I'll be reporting on the link I'll be in. I'm sure I'll get allocated a link the same as anybody else. My local yes groups will be allocated a link, and I'll join that link. Now you need 1,000 odd people per link. Now this event takes place on October 14th, 2023. That's not a lot of time to get these people recruited. So if you've got friends who are pro-independent, talk to them about the Chain of Freedom, get them involved. This would be a spectacular sight if it could be pulled off. Otherwise it'll be eaten as a stupid stunt by the unionist press. But as I say, I'm really keen to get huge turnouts at both these events. Things are actually starting to ramp up, to my surprise. They really are. Okay, but now we've got a fair few of you on board. Let's get into it. Right, the two Davies. 26/06/2023, done in the style of Indie Truck Davy, who's at the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lancashire, where it's dry at the moment, a wee bit cloudy, clammy 17 degrees. Okay, so let's get into it. Thursday, Bank of England does what we all expected today and hike interest rates. And more money out of the system, as the government and the Bank of England admits that they're trying to trigger a recession to bring down inflation, because inflation is not coming down. And food price inflation is going to hold inflation high as we pass the October, the end of October, and the beginning of January, as the checks on goods coming in from the EU have to start. The checks, are already there. Now, if they don't introduce these checks, then they could find themselves in trouble with the World Trade Organization, because everybody else is going to do checks. It gives the UK's alleged advantage. So it does. But hey, the checks are also vital, folks, because right now we're getting crap on our supermarket shelves. Say I was in the supermarket 2 days ago, bought some fruit and flat peaches in this case. And anyway, 2 days later, they're on the bin. We're all off. Oh, furry. The quality of food we're getting at the moment is crap. But say the Bank of England on Thursday hikes rates, and we have them admitting that they're trying to drive the UK economy into recession as a means to bring down inflation. Mental cases. Right. Anyway, what's happening here is folks are starting to lose their homes. So that leads to Friday morning, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, he has to go and have a meeting with the banks. And he comes away with a deal for people who the banks are going to foreclose on. What happens is, when they get by that 3-month point where a bank can apply to a court to sell the house to settle the debt, from that point when it's agreed that they can sell the house to settle a debt, they're going to basically say, you've got 12 months to get out. Find somewhere else to live. 12 months, go. And that's the deal that Jeremy Hunt came up for homeowners or mortgage holders on Friday. No biggie for the banks. Right now the banks are withdrawing mortgage packages. With inflation so high, interest rates so high, young people and people are no moving. We will see stagnation in the housing market. So it's dead easy for the banks just to say, I sit there rent free for a year, because let's face it, I mean, they're not going to be able to move these properties on anyway. No, without taking a smacking themselves. So, mere madness for the banks, and Jeremy Hunt goes begging the banks to help them out, because they know what's coming down the line is going to be mental. We've seen it in the 80s, and the mortgages were smaller, but they were more proportionate to income at that time. But people were just putting their keys through the bank's letterboxes. And that's where we're at. So that's why Jeremy Hunt had to go to the banks and wangle a deal. We could find the banks are going to end up as landlords here, because nobody's got anywhere to go to. They haven't built any houses. It's nuts. As I say, at this point in time, when people are being crushed by the stupidity of Westminster's lack of grasp on how an economy should work, our own economics, and the Bank of England being as thick as mince and all. So things are going to get worse, folks. So for all you people who've been donating to the Food Bank Fund, can't thank you enough, because things are getting bad. And they're going to get much worse. So that was the start of Friday. Friday afternoon, we're being told that Michael Gove, the Levelling Up Minister, is to introduce a bill in Parliament today to ban local authorities from boycotting certain rogue states or rogue administrations from their procurement. So, Gove is to introduce this bill, and the bill is called, The bill's called the Economic Activities of Public Bodies Overseas Matters Bill. And it'll affect places like universities as well, public bodies. And what Gove is going to do is going to make it illegal for public bodies to exclude rogue states on moral or political grounds from their procurement. So, North Lancashire Council, if they disagree with the Israeli occupation in Palestine and decide that they're not going to deal with Israeli goods whatsoever, then they'd be breaking the law. What's interesting about that when it comes to Israel, in this piece of legislation, it will make it illegal for local authorities not it will make it illegal for local authorities to boycott any Israeli goods from the state of Israel and its occupied territories like the Golan Heights. This is another horrific attack on democracy. An absolute horrific attack on democracy. Local authorities don't get to reflect the views of the local people. We only get to reflect what the Home Office tells us we can do. And apparently the Home Office will produce a list of states that are considered rogue and all the rest the councils have to buy for. Of course, this is going to be a hard one to police. Because let's say I'm the council and I'm using X amount of printer ink cartridges, and one company for Israel is making them, and one for Livingston's making them. Well, my argument would be on green grounds. Nothing to do with the fact that Israel's a rogue state. So how they're going to police it, I don't know. But it's another attack on democracy. It's another attack on our rights. Because this is a UK-wide bill. And it's mere power grab for Westminster. So much for local democracy. Deciding on local issues. And local democracies deciding how they spend local people's money. Because that's what these locally elected councillors and their officials are there today. Spend taxpayers' money on public services and goods for public services. Schools, nurseries, that sort of thing. Outrageous behaviour from Westminster. And another attack on our freedoms. And on the freedoms of our local authorities. Wow. Once fascism's got its boots on, it doesn't have to move fast, eh? These last 6-7 years have been horrendous. Some of the bills that have been introduced in Westminster have been outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Those of you who have been following me for a long time, of course, will have heard me talk about them. You know, for the Police Crimes, Courts and Sentencing Act, outlawing nomadic life of our Romano-Gypsy population here in the UK. Mental. End to protest. The state's got the right to spy on you if you're an activist, and they're allowed to recruit your children to spy on you to the age of 12 onwards. Some of the bills that went through down that road are absolutely frightening. Oof. And then, of course, there's the attack on workers' rights with the anti-strike bill. Anti-democratic bill, you mean. So, Michael Gove, the Levelling Up Minister, is about to centralise and control local authorities when it comes to matters of procurement. As I say, the bill will be introduced today, and the bill is called the Economic Activities of Public Bodies Overseas Matters Bill. People in England need to wake up. They really need to wake up. Unfortunately, Mr. Starmer's no any better. No any better. Right. Moving on, Friday, Scotland reflects on the passing of Winnie Ewan. A giant in the movement. And the news outlets do a flippity-dippity for anti-Scottish bias to this one's deed, thank Christ, let's make it a hero. Because they had no choice. Winnie Ewan was a transcendent figure. It's a true Scottish hero and Scottish patriarch. For the 1967 by-election win, to the 2 decades she spent in the European Parliament promoting Scotland, and cementing friendships with other European nations, to being the first presiding officer of the newly reconvened, they called it, Scottish Parliament. It's the bastard child of Westminster. Let's get it straight. With whose hands are badly tied by a badly written piece of legislation which we had nae say in, the 1998 Scotland Act. And rightly so, we should reflect on the achievements of Winnie. Anyway, it's been announced that there will be a memorial service to Winnie in Inverness, at Inverness Cathedral, on the 14th of July, I believe it is. But I'm sure it'll be well attended by the folks of the Highlands, for who Winnie worked endlessly and tirelessly for. So, anyway, that was basically Friday. Mere draconian laws in the passing of Winnie Ewan. And to watch the anti-Scottish BBC promoter as a hero was something mental to behold. Right, let's move on to Saturday, because I'm doing this in the style of Drug Daily, of course, you know. So moving on to Saturday, and there's two big pro-independence events. The annual Bannockburn commemorations with the March and Rally for Independence. I'm told it was a decent, it was a good event, decent turnout, well attended as so. And I was sorry to hear a good friend, Paul Jimison, collapsed. I'm hoping it was just a wee bit of heat stroke or something. Anyway, I'll see for his feed that he's on the mend. If you don't know, Paul's well known in the independence movement as a silent Klansman, but he's a really nice fella, and I was sorry to hear that he took no well on Saturday. But as I say, apparently it was a good event, and well attended. Great, move. And the other event went on in Dundee, and that was a seminar sort of thing on the route forward for independence. Now, it was billed on my ticket as a full and frank debate on the route forward for independence. Wasn't like any debate I've ever attended. It was a well-staged event, very heart-rousing, especially when the First Minister spoke about his idea. But anyway, I'm going to, my idea of debate and the party's idea of debate is definitely different. We were there for 10 in the morning, or 11:30 by the time we got kicked off. Potentially 5 in the afternoon, because 120 members put forward ideas. But it was a carefully organised event. And 2 propositions were put in front of us. No vote, no debate, but 2 propositions were put in front of us. Okay. The first proposition was by the First Minister, but we'll come to that one, because that one's actually the one that's going to be passed by conference, I can assure you. Whether I agree or no, that's the one that's going to be passed by conference in October. So this is the route forward, folks. We now have something to campaign on. But we'll get to that. The other proposition was put forward by Ash Regan. And she wanted to something called the Voter Empowerment Mechanism put in place. Now, what Ash was saying was, because people change their mind all the time, let's make every election going forward a single issue election, and let the people decide at every opportunity. A sort of never ending, but in the form of elections. I have to say, it's not a bad idea. But now I'm going to get back to what Humza said. Now, what Humza said, I was quite happy with what he said, to be honest with you. Because although we're going to lose the 16 and 17-year-olds going down Humza's route, and that's basically to make this next election Well, he's not calling it a plebiscite election, he's just calling it an election on independence. And what he's saying is, if the SNP win a majority of MPs here in Scotland, he's going to call it. He's going to tell Westminster to get round the table. And we're not asking you for the powers to devolve this nation, this union. We're doing it. How do you get there and you don't? You know? So he's gone back to what Maggie Thatcher said in its own record. You can find it in Hansard. Its own record. All you have to do is send a majority of SNP MPs for Scotland down to that Parliament and you're independent. Margaret Thatcher's words, etched in my brain, have been for years. So who's decided to call their bluff? I like it. Anyway, that brings us straight to Sunday, and the Unionist press are in bloody meltdown. They're in top gear, trying to tell us what it means. You want to see the pelter, the Wazzock in Sky? He was brilliant. But anyway, who's telling the press? You don't get it, dummies. We're playing by first past the post rules. The Sky presenter says to him, well, that would mean Labour would win. It's a UK-wide election. And Humza says, I'm not interested in the UK, it's Scotland. If we beat Labour in Scotland, we've won that election. End of story. That's how first past the post wins. Yeah, you've got to love Humza, who's taking no nonsense after them. They're trying to tell us it's going to be pro-independence party, 51% of those that turn out to vote. Humza says, nah, we're not playing that game. Majority of votes, majority of MPs, thank you very much. And he and he says, at the end of the interview, he says, and let them dare tell us this isn't a voluntary union. Let them dare tell us. And they say, you know, I'd rather it was a Scottish plebiscite election. I'd rather we went on a mandate for to dissolve the Scottish Parliament and hold the Scottish plebiscite election in this issue with a majority of pro-independence MSPs, games of bogey. But I like the way he's framed this. So I'm quite happy to go with this. We have something to go on now. Even though I wasn't happy with what was actually know what I thought I was going to Dundee for. I thought I was going to Dundee for a frank and honest debate. Got two propositions put in front of me. And the way the first proposition for the First Minister was put in front of me, I like it. I put a post out for the Cairn saying, it's the next general election. Get ready. Talk's a good game. And well, he didn't have talk a good game yesterday. He broke no nonsense. The minute he'd plotted his idea, the Unionists were trying to frame his idea to suit themselves. You couldn't make it up. But to be fair to him, he wasn't letting them frame the debate. He just was not letting them. I'm going to like to get to the cut of this guy's jib. You know. So on Sunday in the press, as Humza was doing the rounds, he was taking no prisoners. None. And he made it clear to Westminster. We might well find ourselves with Section 30 order shortly. They might fancy rigging another referendum. Because he's made it clear to Westminster, we're playing by your rules. First past the post. And by the way, Scotland's a nation. It doesn't matter what you get idea of UK election crap. We win the election in Scotland. We're following the settled will of the Scottish people because we'll have told them this is about independence. Vote for us and we're independent. So, I have to say, I'm beginning to like the way he's handling the press. He was breaking no nonsense for them yesterday. And he's not letting the Unionists frame the debate. He's not allowing the Unionists to tell him what a majority is. He's telling them, we're playing by Westminster rules. Labour will get into power on maybe 38% of the vote, UK-wide. So, don't start this 50% plus one, pish. You don't move the rules to suit yourselves. So, to be fair to Humza, what he's putting in front of us is a very simple proposition. The population will be shown out to vote. Majority votes, majority MPs the majority of the people of Scotland have spoken. Because you never get 100% turnout at a general election. But that will be the settled will of the majority of people that voted that day. And that should be enough. It's democratically done, and it should be recognised worldwide. And when they talk about legal routes, this is it. It's on record, spoken by a British Prime Minister in the House of Commons, Margaret Thatcher. All you have to do is send a majority of pro-independence MPs to this place from Scotland, and Scotland can be independent. So who's this taking her up now? And he's calling their bluff. Now it's up to us to unite and get behind it. Because we are going to have our regional assemblies, we are going to have other ideas put in the pot, but I think this one is the one that people are going to go for. I think this one is the one that people are going to go for. They say, and as October comes in and things get harder, and as January through the winter, January hits, when all the checks are going to be done, when we can't get goods and foods in, when they hit the shelves start rotting, when the prices are still rocketing, inflation's still high. Promise the people a well-being society, a better run economy, better pensions, better public services. Come the election, which I think the Tories are going to drag out to about October next year. You know. And as I say, the other clever bit about it is he's just pulled the rug out from under the Labour Party in Scotland. Because as we know, polling constantly shows that 42% of members of the Labour Party in Scotland favour the idea of independence. So the SNP just won 42% of Labour voters in Scotland. Because when it's put in the manifesto front and centre, a vote for us is a vote for independence. You want independence, you're going to vote for them. So he's just took 42% of the Labour Party's vote here in Scotland right out their pocket. Another wee interesting thing that I found out on Saturday, and it wasn't something that I'd been thinking about, but Kate Forbes had a wee chat with Paul Kavanagh and Gordon McIntyre Kemp. I like these guys actually. Gordon makes a lot of sense, puts a lot of time and resources into this movement. He's a great organiser. Anyway, but Gordon points out, and I know I must have known this in the back of my head, but Gordon points out that these polls are still being weighted against 2014. The demographics have changed. The population has changed. And that was a good point that Paul Kavanagh brought up and all. On average, 60,000 people a year die here in Scotland. What was it we lost the last referendum by? 246,000 votes. And the older generation were more likely to vote no, apparently. Do the math. It would appear our polls are run. So we could well be way in front. Because they're still waiting the polling information. They were still waiting the polls against the demographics of 2014. They know that. Or if I did know, I'd forgotten it. But they say, I think they say, come the conference in October, whom's this proposition's going to win, folks? And the way he was presenting it on the television yesterday by not allowing them to frame it, but telling them, no, we're going to play by your rules. We're going to play by first past the post rules. And we're going to play by SNP get the majority in Scotland, we're calling it. Now, as long as that's what's in the manifesto, a vote for the SNP is a vote for independence, simple as that's what he said. And it'll be recognised internationally that that's what we are voting on. So it will. So, campaign ahead. What other thing that was interesting there was he didn't exclude the rest of the movement and the other parties that stand for independence. Because what he said was, a majority of pro-independence MPs. So if upper standing parties in win a seat, standing people in the win a seat or two, still all adds to the majority. They will try and claim otherwise, but Holmes has made it clear. He's framed it. He framed it on Sunday, and he framed it really well. And I see today, that's a good point, Evelyn. Today the BBC are trying to frame it as a vote for a referendum. That's not what Holmes has said. I was in the room. I know what he said. I know what he said to the press yesterday. But the unionist media are still trying to frame it. That's why I'm saying don't be surprised if there's a Section 30 order issued shortly. Begin the next year or something like that. Maybe they fancy rigging another referendum. But as I say, he was very good. He was very good. He told them, now we're playing by the rules. The first past the post rules. Majority vote, majority MPs. Nothing to do with percentages, just fact. So that was good. So it was coming to Humza. As I say, but we can forget any other proposition that's going to be put forward now. This is the one that will win the vote at conference. Ash Reagan's idea of the voter empowerment mechanism, not a bad idea either. Not a bad idea either. You've heard David and I suggest it. Just make every election about it. Yeah. So, as I say, that was quite interesting. The other thing over the weekend, of course, ferries. We seem to have a bloody obsession with ferries all of a sudden. You know. So I've decided to have a wee look at what's going on. Anyway, the Cross-Party Transport Committee in Holyrood's been compiling a report that's released this morning. Now, the report says that CalMac should be granted another 10-year contract to run the West Coast ferries. And it says that CMAL, who actually own the ferries and run the ports, should be moved into Transport Scotland. Get rid of CMAL, one public body we don't need, and move it straight into the Department of Transport. So ferries would come under the rest of the transport network. The recommendations on renewing the fleet to look at whether more frequent smaller sailings to some of the bigger places would be more beneficial to the people. And there's 3 or 4 other recommendations. But we seem to all of a sudden have an obsession with ferries. What's interesting about that is it's unionists again. It's state propaganda. The SNP government's got a £250 million overspend on a couple of tubs down at Gourock. So the unionists are bleating about a small overspend. I don't hear them bleating about 9.6 million in fraud to follow and bounce back loans. I don't hear them complaining about 11.7 billion being sparked up the wall and dodgy PPE contracts down that road. By the way, where is that police investigation? Where is the international warrant for Michelle Mone? No. There's no talk about the now near 40 billion quid that was sparked up against the wall by Dido Hardy with a broken track and trace system and an app that didn't work. Man, she must be minted. Somewhere in one of these offshore tax havens, there's going to be billions and billions and billions of dodgy unionist imperial masters, dodgy money. And they want to complain about a ferry or two. Wow. Absolutely mental. You couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. And of course, the weekend there, a Caledonian, well, we're on the subject of transport, Caledonian a sleeper back in public hands. So that's everything in the Scottish Railway except for Network Rail in public hands. Quicker we get our line to independence, the quicker we take the infrastructure back as well. Because the infrastructure that's here in Scotland, well, they can't take it away. We paid for it as well. In fact, the infrastructure in England, we paid 8.3% to it. If it was deemed to be of national importance, and every project to make it the day in England seems to be deemed to be of national importance. But when we built the Queensferry crossing, it wasn't deemed to be of national importance. And no money for Westminster for it. Scottish taxpayers had to build up. Man, absolutely mental. Where are we? Also, the weekend, things went mental in Russia, didn't they? The Wagner Group turned on Putin. And they marched into Russia from their bases along the borders of Ukraine, or wherever they are, and got to about 50 miles away from Moscow and turned round and went back to the barracks. And apparently, the president of Belarus negotiated some sort of deal, and the leader of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, he is now in exile in Belarus. I dare say he'll be dead shortly. And apparently Putin's in hiding for some reason or other. Now, the people, if we look at the type of government in Russia, some of them waiting to replace Putin or what is absolutely worse. But I mean, the economic effect of Russia imploding at this point in time, and tapping all the rest of the problem we've got, it would not be good. I hope China's keeping an eye on this one. I really do. And of course, we had what it's called vote. We had the so-called celebrations of Brexit last week, didn't we? Wow, what a commentary. Right. Mental. Pure entertainment, folks. Absolute entertainment. We're still looking for one idea. We're still looking for Brexit benefits, but I'm sure Moggy will be able to come up with some in 50 years' time. You know, that's if he's not in the jail or dead. Yeah. So we had Gammon TV, and then of course the BBC had people on a wee bit more balanced. So Brexit got well scalped, and apparently the Tories are complaining about it, about Brexit getting scalped. But there's no way around it. 7 years on, with the fateful day that England and Wales decided that they didn't want to be part of the biggest trading bloc on the planet anymore. Dragging Scotland and Northern Ireland, well, Northern Ireland actually stays in the single market, but basically dragging us out against our will. 7 years on, the polls in England show that they know they made a mistake. They know they made a mistake. But yet, there are two big political parties I'm not talking about. You would you'd have thought Brexit never happened. It's never spoken about. It's that taboo. And that's the exceptionalism down that road that they're going to have to get out, especially the political elite. Because if you can't admit you've made a mistake, you can't fix it. And then a quick question time fiasco. Wow, a room full of Brexiteers. What's that about? Huh? I hope they'll enjoy the night full of sovereignty. Whatever that is, because they don't have any sovereignty in England. We have sovereignty here in Scotland. In England, they have a monarch who is sovereign. What were they talking about sovereignty for? They don't have any sovereignty in England. Their parliament doesn't have any sovereignty. The sovereignty of the Westminster Parliament lent it by Charles. He's sovereign. Wow. Mental. And that brings me on to another thing. Wednesday this week, Not My King will be coming to Scotland for a wee ceremony in St Giles, I think it is. Now, make no mistake here, folks, Charles is not King of Scots. In order to be King of Scots, he would have to take the Scottish oath. And in that oath, he would need to swear allegiance to the people. Down that road, he was shouting for the people of England to swear allegiance to him. The Scottish oath. He has to swear allegiance to the crown. In this case, the crown is the people. The people are sovereign. So this carry on Wednesday is just pathetic dressing up to maintain of a glimmer of legality on him and his thieving parliament down that road, accessing our resources. There's 2 crown offices, by the way. One here in Scotland, one in England. The one in Scotland, that's the office of the crown, meaning the people. The one in England's a crown office. They have different responsibilities. But all this carry on about Charles coming up for a wee ceremony as King of Scots. No, he's not. This dress up fishing carry on coming up to Scotland to have a look at the Scottish honours, which they will never wear and will never swear fealty to the people of Scotland. It's all a lot of crap. Started by his mom in 1953, I think. So this isn't a tradition. This isn't how it's done. This is a veneer of legality to allow them to continue to steal our resources. Because here in Scotland, the Crown looks after things for us because we're the Crown. Sorry, the monarch looks after things for us because we're the Crown. And it states that in the oath. That's why I'll never take it. Because he'd be right back up the road on charges of treason. So he would. You know, the reason why he hasn't taken that oath is the reason why we can't just say to him, where's my Section 30 order, spanner, sign it. But I don't see why we don't. But as I say, we have a route forward now. We have a route forward. And Holmes has framed it very, 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 very carefully. So that anybody who attacks it will be wrapped up in their own hypocrisy. Because they're already on record having saying, this is the way to do it. They are on record. You look up Hansard, look up Margaret Thatcher. Can't mind the date. But it's etched in my brain. Has been for a long, long time. And Holmes is calling their bluff. I like it. I like it. And I think it's a winning strategy, actually. And we're going to lose the teenagers. Yep, we're going to lose the EU nationals. But we're going to gain 42% of Labour supporters. So that'll be a wee bit compensation. I'd much rather have the EU nationals and the 16 and 17-year-olds in the vote. But as I say, that's the way it's going to go, folks. So it is. So we're having more wee conferences and things like that. And let's hope they're not as stage managed as the Dundee one was, as I say, but a frank and honest debate it was not, but the outcome's basically something that we can work with. We can work with it. So we have a route. It's legal. As stated by the Supreme Court of the UK, Section 79 of 81 of the Supreme Court ruling, there's power at the ballot box. So there you go. And Holmes is no letting them frame the debate. That's quite good, actually. He's framing it for them. So, all interesting stuff. Oh, and of course, apparently, the new Prince of Wales is big on housing, apparently. Apparently, he's going to plough some money into housing. I dare say he'll charge sky high rents, same as the rest of them. But apparently, that's his passion, housing. Huh? Don't know how many bedrooms you've got, matey, but there's a lot of homeless folk running about you. Housing, you know. So it's been an interesting weekend. So it is. Now, folks, because I'm doing this in the Indie Truck Daily format, I'm going to round it up at 45 minutes as if it was a break. That's all I've got to say about the weekend. I hope you found my opinions interesting, and I hope you found some of the other stuff, the factual stuff about the bills coming through and things like that, and the reports coming out. I hope you found them interesting. I hope you found them informative. Now, I've just seen that Craig Brown's died. Now, we're back Thursday. I'll be doing the Indie Truck Daily format again. It'll be a 45-minute show. Saying that, by the time I waffle and round this up, it'll be 50 odd minutes, usually, as I used to do for the truck. So I'll be on my own again on Thursday, and then the two Davies hopefully will be back the following Monday with the other Davy in tow. You'll have finished swanning about the Greek islands, you know. But hey, that's the way it is. So, we've got a plan, we've got a route map, because that's the one that will be voted for at the conference in October. Let's get together and get on with it. Alright, so I'll see you on Thursday. Didn't think about that there. I'll see you on Thursday. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. Eyes on the prize. We have a target. Eyes on the prize. Let's get the movement back together. Let's get this done.